Hey bitches, welcome to the first episode of Cuntfessionals podcast. I am really excited to be starting this journey again. For the few people that know about the podcast, I started Cuntfessionals back in 2020 during the pandemic as just a boredom project. I was doing a bunch of creative things because I had all the time in the world. And this podcast was one of them. And since then, I've treated it like a hobby and it's been extremely fun. But after being in LA for like 3.5 years, a bitch needs to make a bag. So this is me trying to make a bag out of this podcast. And I am really excited to be doing that because ever since I've moved here, it's just been chaotic, but also so peaceful. And I've learned so many lessons about being a creative in a city like this, and the city to be a creative in. It's been so amazing to finally feel like I have full control over my life and have my fuck ups be my fuck ups. And they're not even that bad because I'm always learning a lesson. And one of the most valuable lessons I learned is that I need to stick with what I love and what I'm good at. And I'm really good at talking shit. So here we are. And today I'm going to be talking about following your dreams and how that is radical self love. And at first, I was a little skeptical about that title because I see a lot of bitches here following their dreams, and you know, I sometimes it doesn't give self love. Sometimes it just, people do it because they have the resources or because they're bored. I think it comes easily to a certain type of person to follow their dreams or what they think their dreams should be, or to follow a creative project because, you know, again, they might have the resources or they want to fill some sort of void, whatever. But I think for another type of person, following your dreams is a form of radical self love because it's not easy, because it is scary. And I was one of those people where, I grew up in Mexico and then came down to the US when I was little. I had no support whatsoever for anything creative that I wanted to do. Everything was always consistently torn down. So it took a lot for me to make the decision to make my move out here and to follow what has always been in the back of my head, just yapping at me. And yeah, I mean, I think when you're stuck in a certain type of life, when you don't have the support, and when following your dreams is scary and a challenge, there is nothing that's going to get you there other than some sort of belief in yourself. And I think that takes at least some love, like you love yourself to some extent to see that potential. And the love in action is actually following through and seeing where that potential is going to get you. And in this episode, I am going to break it down in a few parts. Bear with me if I don't get to all of them because I wrote down a lot of bullet points. So for the first one, I am going to just kind of give a brief story about my life here in LA, how it's been, what it took to get here, what I left behind, my sacrifices. I'm going to talk about self-love, obviously, releasing fear, having a childlike spirit, listening to your gut, discipline. You know what? Yeah. And y'all get the gist. I'm actually not gonna give an outline for this one because this one's a little bit messy. If you know, you know. I usually give an outline in my intro and then go on. But because this episode, it's my first one in a while, and it's something that's really close to my heart. I kind of just want to speak freely, and I do have an outline, but that bitch is messy. So yeah, without further ado, let's get this episode started. Okay, so like I said, I have been in LA for 3.5 years. I got here in January 10th of 2021, and it has been the best decision of my life. I have never been more free, more in in tune with who I am. And the journey, I mean, I want to say it's easy because it was. Like, I think a lot of people are scared to move to a new city, and everyone says it's going to be hard. But for me, at least, it was the easiest thing I've ever done. Like, it made my life so easy. But to give context, bitch, I mean, where I came from was not really the easiest place to live in. So going from hell to purgatory, it's like a dream come true. But I'm not gonna call LA purgatory because I don't want to call it heaven either. But it's been amazing because it's been an opportunity for me to have a blank slate. I come from a typical Hispanic toxic household, and my parents were divorced when I was really young, and I always had this big, like, this big desire, this immense desire to pursue acting, modeling, anything in that realm of things. I've always been a yapper. I've always loved talking shit. But I mean, the talking shit came later. That realization came later. I loved writing. So anything having to do with storytelling has always been very dear and close to my heart. And when I would try to do that when I was younger, it's just, it wasn't gonna happen. It wasn't happening. I had some mild, some mid attempts at it, but I never succeeded because my environment was so messed up and chaotic that it really took for me to get to multiple rock bottoms until the final boss of rock bottom for me to make the decision that I needed to move. Because long story short, I was a people pleaser, and I did a lot of things that I didn't want to do, especially within my career. I ended up getting a master's to please the people that loved me. And by halfway through that master's, I was on the way of going to law school. But halfway through the master's, I realized that I was living a life that was not suited for me, that I did not want to live. Like, I was living for somebody else. And it clicked on me one day during Hot Girl Summer in 2019 that I just needed to make a decision, that I needed to do it, whether I was ready or not. So I made the decision that I was going to move to LA, and I really didn't tell anyone, especially my mom. I didn't tell her because people would try and sabotage that. So I kept that to myself, and I made a plan on what I needed to do. I want to pursue acting, so I did immense amounts of research on the industry and what I needed to do prior to moving here. So my plan was to work a shit ton, save up all the money, come to LA, stay here, like save enough money to live without a job for maybe like 3 to 6 months, and while I get a job, and have everything creatively planned out. And it worked out. It worked exactly how I planned it. The only thing that didn't work out was that the pandemic hit. Just that little tiny detail, the pandemic hit, and I had to wait a little bit longer, but I didn't let that tear me down. In fact, I felt like I was getting an extension on a deadline that I had set, and it it didn't burden me that much. I told myself that I needed to use that time to do creative things, like fill the space with preparing creatively. So I did more research, what it took, what I need to get an agent, where to get my headshots, how the best headshots are made, like what platforms I need to use to self-submit and what platforms agents use to submit me, etc. So within that time frame, I did this wretched podcast, and I practiced monologues, acting. I did 2 short films. They're up on YouTube, by the way. One of them has like 20K views on YouTube. So, not to suck my own dick, but I'm going to suck my own dick. I mean, it's not that much, but whatever. Anyway, yeah, I filled in that time. And I think one of the key factors that helped me was that I had a positive mindset in the midst of chaos. So I was already on track to letting all the burden, to lifting off like all the burdens of horrible people that were in my life. And it was really hard. It was extremely hard because those hard people, like those hard situations, were abusive. And anybody that has gone through any sort of domestic abuse knows how hard it is to leave because of the violence involved and just the mental addiction that exists. So it was hard, and there was a lot of temptations to alter my plan, but I just knew in my gut that I couldn't budge. And yeah, I didn't. Thank God I stayed strong, and it's been the best decision that I've ever made. I've learned a lot of lessons. I've been through certain parts of the industry, and I felt like these 3 years in LA have just been learning lessons for me to finally apply what I've learned now. Because I'm not going to go into my entire journey from this point, because then that would be like a 4-5 part episode. But I think the hardest thing to overcome, and this is my first point, is self doubt. And I think that's definitely something that people struggle with the most, because you question whether you're good enough, whether you're able to do it. There's, even though your heart or your intuition may be telling you that you need to do what is good for you and what you want to do, there's always something, another voice talking and saying that, saying all these other things that are contradicting. So I, because I was raised to not trust myself, I am still battling with a lot of self doubt. And it's been, that's probably been the hardest part ever since I've gotten here, because I push through the belief. I push through and I'm like, I just need to do it. I need to do it. But then sabotage comes into play, where I procrastinate, or I just feel confused and I'm handling multiple things at once. And I have to go back to that time in 2019 and 2020 where I just made a decision based on what I believed and what I believed about myself and what I was capable of. So I think it's really easy to get back and wrapped up around that doubt and all those other voices around you. But I I've learned that I need to remember that I was programmed a certain way. I think like childhood is the time for programming, for mental programming a human being. And I was programmed to have a lot of self doubt and to just always listen and obey. So I've been trying to train myself to not have that and to just push through and release the fear, because I think a lot of, at the core of self doubt is just fear. And very deep down subconsciously is the fear of being, like, I think it's the fear of being successful and the fear of not being successful. So because you don't feel as terrible as those two, as where those two pathways could lead you, or you don't feel not as terrible but as intensely as to where the path of failure or the path of success will lead you, people tend to stick in the middle and not do anything, because that is better than whatever than the fear of those intense feelings. There was a firework. But anyway, yes, I do believe that it's very easy for people to remain stagnant because of the fear of any intense emotion that's going to come from either success or failure. And yeah, I mean, it's a lot. I think that's just a little tiny piece of everything, but it's important to just make the decision and your stay focused. That's what everybody's always talking about. You just got to stay focused, focus on one thing. Because, and I think it's important to, obviously take feedback and listen to your voices here and there, but it can get to a point where it's distracting and you just stay paralyzed. And the thing that has already been proven and worked for me has been just sticking to one decision and remaining focused and not letting yourself be set down by failure. When I first moved here, I started with acting, and that is the industry where you get rejected the most, or where you see like the least talented people succeed. And when you see some incredibly talented people not succeed, or where you get typecasted. And damn, like I can make another episode about typecasting in Hollywood, because typecasting is not just as simple as it sounds. Like there's so much sexism and racism within typecasting. And yeah, but yeah, that's something for another day. Anyway, that was experiencing that. I knew I would experience it, but actually experiencing it was very discouraging. So I had to remain positive. And I think the best way to remain positive is to remember what it was like to be a child. Because for anyone that's read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, oh my God, I read that book 3 times when I was a teenager. And it's, to some people it may be woo woo, just, fairy tale, like unrealistic talk. But I think at the core of that, or I think that those unrealistic beliefs or that sort of mindset has so much value, and it has proven to work for so many people. And I think there's a difference between being absolutely delusional and thinking that things will just land on your lap, or that you're gonna get somewhere just because you think it. I mean, even that works for some people, but for not for everybody. Like it's just, you have to be really lucky. But the amazing thing about having a childlike spirit and believing in yourself like you are a child is that you always stay optimistic. And optimism will get you so fucking far, because life is ultimately all about perspective. And one thing that has always kept me grounded is remembering what it was like to be a child. And I think despite of whatever upbringing you may have, knowing what it was like in your mind to be a child, knowing the pure intentions, the like everything was just true. Everything that you would think as a child was just you just children just take things for what they are. That's why they say rude ass things in public, and that's why they just, you know, air out everybody's bullshit. So, and I think that is the purest way to be, and that is the best way to be, just to have pure intentions and to see things for what they are. So I think it's important because children have the bravery to dream and to believe that there are going to be all of these amazing things, and but they also accept reality for what it is. And children have the perfect harmony between those two things, because they are able to see the world in front of them, call out people, call out things for what they are, and then have the audacity to think they're going to be all these great things, because they see it, because they see people being those things that they want to be. So they're like, okay, like maybe I could do that too. And they're also, children are inherently curious. So they explore different things. Like think of a child that has all the tools and a healthy environment. Think about how many things they would explore. Think about how many things you would explore, you would have explored as a child, given the ability to. And because they're curious, they're interested in things, and they believe because they see it. And I think it's the best way to be realistic. Like dreaming is being realistic. And of course there's other components that come into play. Once you grow up, you maybe try something and you realize that maybe you're not that good at it, or that you don't like it so much. And that's the beauty of it, because things remain flexible after that. Yeah, I really do believe that following your dreams can be the most grounded and realistic thing a person can do. Because that, I mean, and I'm speaking for myself, because I don't know, like I've just never felt better than when I've been honest about what I want and what I want to do. And it's scary being honest with yourself, because when you're honest with yourself and you're not happy with your current reality, you are forced to face all options of what you could do, and making decisions, making radical choices that might be really scary to do. So if you're in a relationship and you know it's not right for you, and you just avoid it and you stay and you stay, and you know that what you really want to do is live in another part of the world, not date, or date another gender, whatever. It's just an example. When you know that you're not being your authentic self, I think the scary part for a lot of people about questioning like who they are and what they want to do is the choices that might follow after. But I'm here to say that it's really not that hard. I mean, wait, let me think. Yeah, no, I don't. I think it's so liberating that the hard part goes away because it's so liberating. I was in a situation where there was domestic abuse from multiple people. I was in a boring ass town that, people get mad when people talk shit about this town, but I'm gonna talk shit. I just don't like it. Like, I don't like it. I don't like the town where I'm from, and but that's where I'm from, right? And I wasn't happy there, and I was having an academic career that was gonna lead somewhere I didn't want it to lead. And once I was honest with myself, an enormous weight was lifted off my shoulders, that all I had to do was stick to my decision. And that decision is hard because it's change, and change is hard. But it's because the reason why it is so hard is also the reason why it's so easy, because it's just it's just easier being yourself. It's so much easier to live truthfully, to honor who you are. And I will say that loving yourself can be hard, is a journey, and can be hard, but this is the first step. And it sounds scary, and it might be, but once you do it, it's it's a piece of cake. And the challenges that follow after that are are your blessings. Like the challenges that I face after coming here, and the challenges are quite the challenge. Like racism in Hollywood, fucking creeps outside of the industry face some racism, a little bit, not that much, but some racism. Uh, being in a new city, like all those things, I'm always reminded that those challenges are blessings, because when I compare them to the challenges I would have been facing had I not done what I wanted to, oof, I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful that I'm here. And even when I get a little depressed and I start crying about my current situation, I just know that it could be worse and it's not, because I decided to honor my authenticity and who I am and what I wanted to do. And with that, I think some people may struggle with knowing what to do, because there might be a sense of confusion. But I think your gut will always tell you if something is off or if something is wrong. Maybe somebody might not know what their journey is in life, or like what their purpose is, but your gut will always tell you where you are not meant to be at, or what you need to fix. Like there's always going to be that feeling in your body that's going to be honest with you. And I also think that nobody has a purpose. Like I think the concept of having a purpose, to me, is a little bit outdated, because it's just it's just so, like, the path to that is so narrow. It's such a narrow-minded way of thinking, when you can just be a person that experiments with different things like a child, and then you figure out what you like. And what you like may be something that you've never explored before, but because a lot of adults are wounded children, we forget that vital part of our humanity, which is curiosity and exploring, and saying and having a sense of autonomy and choice. Like that is really who we are naturally. And because we were stunned at a certain age, we just end up confused. But it always all goes back to that, and to being a child. But with that said, there's a lot of sacrifices that do come with following your dreams. It's not all just like, oh my God, girl, it's so easy. Like, just do it. You know, it's a little bit, it's just, you're just scared. You're just being a pussy. No, there is some sacrifices that come with that. So, firsthand, like the the sacrifice that I realized was not a sacrifice, which was leaving the comfort of my city and my current reality at that time. I had to sacrifice that. I had to sacrifice a version of myself that it was really hard to let go of because it was so unhealthy and it was addictive. I think a lot of unhealthy things are extremely addictive, and unhealthy food, unhealthy relationships, not working out, being at home, doing nothing. All those things are addictive. So I had to sacrifice that part of myself, and it's there was withdrawals for sure. There's withdrawals when it came to my toxic relationship. I didn't miss being in El Paso, but I didn't miss being in a relationship either. But I missed like parts of my psyche, I think, were just still craving some sort of toxicity, which went which passed pretty quickly after my move, but it still remains for like a few weeks after my move. Um, I think the most impactful sacrifice that I've had to make is job security. I'm 29 and I currently bartend in LA. Oh my god, I could make another episode about bartending in LA. It's a skill that I'm very grateful to have, and it's one of those things that just kind of fell into my lap when I was 21. So I've been doing it for 8 years, and for the time invested, it is great money, and I'm able to thankfully live off of it. So I get flexibility, and I'm able to live off of it while I pursue my creative endeavors. But that not having job security at 29 when you have a master's degree is one hell of it is one hell of an ego check. It is a humbling thing to be a 29-year-old with a master's degree living in LA working in service industry. And that just takes a hit on my ego a lot because I am constantly surrounded by people who are pretty successful in their fields, and I am surrounded by incredibly successful people with a lot of money. And then they ask like, "Oh, well, what do you do?" That is a question to ask in LA. What do you do? And I've asked it too. I mean, it's just a question to ask. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. People complain, but I think the people that complain about this question is because they're not happy with what they're doing, which is me. Like, I'm not happy with bartending. I'm grateful for it, but it doesn't feel good to be doing that still. So it is a hell of an ego check. It humbles me, and it's probably the biggest sacrifice that I have made. And there has been a handful of times where I have browsed through the internet to look for regular jobs that pay, a salary and have benefits. And every time I've done it, I feel like throwing up. Yeah. I feel like I am not going to eat that day because I will throw it all up. So, yeah, it's and that's my gut. That's my gut being like, "Fuck no, bitch. Like, you need to get moving. You need to do something." And, within my creative things, like, I need to actually try. Cuz yeah, I mean, it does take sacrifice. Like, you can tell this really like hits me and this really gets me going because I this is a toxic relationship that I have with success, is that I hold what I want to do and how I want to be successful very close to my identity. And yeah, I there has to be a balance. I've talked to my therapist about this a lot, and I've cried about it so much because especially when I started dating, I made it a goal to date men that had careers and that had money. So because I was dating these very successful men, I was surrounded and I am surrounded by very successful friends of theirs. And yeah, that because I felt so uncomfortable, I had to ask myself. It's so important to ask yourself questions like why? Why am I feeling? And the answer came quickly. It's like, oh, because you feel like a loser. You feel like a loser with all these successful people when you haven't reached that point in your career yet. And when other people might say that you don't have a career. And it's true. Like I don't. I mean, bartending can be a career, but it's not mine. It's definitely not mine. And yeah, I mean, what I want to do is something in the creative field, and I just don't, I'm not there yet. So it hurts me. It hurts me because it is a reminder of not being where I want to be yet. But I have talked to my therapist about having a balance of disconnecting your dreams from who you are. Because your dreams should be a reflection of who you are, but they shouldn't be who you are. Because I feel like a lot of people chase their dreams or they chase fame or clout or whatever because they want their identity to grasp into being somebody important and somebody that people care about. But that is just when you isolate that and you analyze it and you ask why, like why do you not feel important right now? What what's the deal there? For in my case, I'm just going to put myself as an example because I can only speak for myself. But when I observe that, it's like, okay, I don't feel important right now. And I feel like, and more than that, is I feel like a loser. So I need to work on that negative self belief and transform it to I am important. And that is why I'm doing this. That is why I am that's why I'm aspiring to be somebody or to be successful. It's like I don't want to be successful to so I can feel important. I want to be successful because I am important and because what I have to say matters and how I express my art matters and because it's valuable and because I know that I'm talented. That it's so different. It's so different because people reach for success so they can feel like somebody, whereas you should follow success because you know you are somebody and you should feel important regardless. And that just takes a crazy amount of self-confidence and self-awareness, not arrogance, because a lot of people could interpret what I just said like, oh, you're just an arrogant bitch sucking your own dick. But no, like you have to be real with yourself and know what you're good at or how, be real with your potential and work with that. And I've been real with it. I think I've questioned whether I suck like so many times, and done the work to get feedback and listen and be open minded, try to be objective, all of that. So I think once you've done that work, it is important to not make your dreams your identity, just make them, they're just a part of who you are. Yeah, I mean, I think it's your identity is just a component of many different things and of values that you have. And I've been trying to work on just doing it for the sake of art. Like, I didn't love acting or expressing myself or writing because I wanted to be famous. Like, sure, that, being famous or having money, that is just part of the appeal, right? But when you really love art, like you just do it. Like you just do it because it's most people don't get rich and most people don't get famous. So when you do it, you need to make sure that you are doing it for the sake of the art and that you really believe that what you have to offer matters and holds value, and then everything will follow. But you can't just do it for the fame or the money. I used to think that for a moment I used to hold the belief that it's fine to just do it for the fame and for the money. And that's when hard work comes into play. Like you work hard and you learn the business aspect to get there, but you can isolate those two, because I could have clout and money doing something else, and I could just be doing that, and I could have the status that hurts my ego that I don't get when I'm in social gatherings. But I'm not doing that because I would hate myself and I would throw up in my mouth. So I am choosing to follow art because I love it. I there's nothing else that I could imagine myself doing. And if I'm not seeing the fruits of my labor, I've had to face that I'm just not working hard enough. And at least I'm speaking for myself. And I think a lot of this does apply to a lot of people, because you could always be working harder, and if you really wanted it, you're just gonna do it. And I had to be really honest with myself and be like, bitch, you're procrastinating. You're not, like, what the fuck are you doing? You're spending 4 hours, like, or yeah, sometimes four, but you're spending like 1 or 2 hours on fucking TikTok, just fucking, what's it called, doom scrolling. You're just doom scrolling when you could be doing something else, and it feels better to do something else. But like I said, unhealthy things can be addictive, and I have a crippling phone addiction. So I had to be really honest and say, okay, I want to be sick. I'm not doing it for the success. I'm doing it because I love art. If I was doing it for the success, I would be doing something else and something easier. I'm doing it for the art, but I also want success. I need to just fucking work harder. And yeah, and there's a lot of checking. Like, you have to check yourself so many times. You have to check your ego. And that is also one thing that I love about this journey that I've chosen, is that it's not rewarded much for people that do it. And there's so many disappointments, there's so many no's, there's so many letdowns there's a lot of luck involved. But again, you have to go into all those things of just believing in yourself like a child, seeing things for what they are, and doing following your heart, following your gut. Because every time that I feel that shame of not being successful, that's not the same feeling that I get when I'm following my heart. Like, when I'm following my heart, there's so much optimism, and there's so much, like, like, I value myself, because I'm like, oh my god, like, I have something to offer, let me just give it. And when I get those feelings of shame in those situations, or just in my head when I'm alone, it's like, oh, you're not good enough, like, oh, like, what, it's completely opposite. So there definitely has to be a shift in perspective. And in order for that shift to exist, you can't have your dreams be a part of be your entire identity. Like, me being a podcaster, like that, girl, bye. Girl, bye. Like, no, no. Okay, even being an act, like, no, no, no shit. I'm not shit talking podcasting or podcasters. I love this. It's like my bread and butter. I love talking. I love yapping. But no, like, there's so much more to who I am. And same with acting. Like, for a long time, I worshipped acting. I thought, like, acting was the end all be all. Acting is everything to me. But because I was so mentally, like, fucked up, it's like I was grasping onto acting like I would have grasped a romantic partner. Like, you're everything I want, you're everything I need, like, save me, save me. And no, bitch, you can't do that. And I think what makes people feel that way with acting is that you get so much emotional release when you do it, and you're able to act out empathy. Like, the like, acting itself is very healing. So when you are unhealed and you get to do a healing act, bitch, you can turn up to be even more unhealthy. But anyway, that's just me. Well, that's not just me. I think I think I snapped with that. But anyway, yes, I am currently working on not making my creative aspirations my entire being, because there's just so much more. And I think there's so many ways of valuing yourself and having self love. like with everything else in life, like relationships, friendships, acquaintances, the way you might defend yourself in certain situations. I think that another big one for me, aside from career, is relationships, because a bitch is traumatized, and I never really knew what a healthy relationship looked like, even in a lot of my friendships. Before I deleted all my previous episodes, I had an episode on my friends and how much I love my friends and how they saved me. And a lot of those friendships fell through, fell through the drain. They were ruined. And I learned a very valuable lesson. I learned that all those relationships, not all my female relationships fell through, but the ones that did were all like women friendships. And I realized that my mommy issues made me attract a certain type of woman as a friend. Like I was always a caregiver to my maternal figure, and I did the same with my friendships, and they ended up falling apart in the end. So I realized that that I wasn't loving myself enough when it came to that area of my life, that I was treating myself like shit by recreating these toxic dynamics, these cycles. So I made after that happened, three friendships fell through within the same time frame. After that, I made it a goal for me to practice radical self-love in every area of my life. One of those being my friendships, my relationships, even romantic. When I started dating, I'm gonna do an episode on that next. Oh shit, I should have given anyway. Whatever. If you listen to the episode, you know what the second episode is gonna be about, or maybe not second, maybe I don't know. Anyways, I tried to master the art of dating and practicing self-love, because through a guy that I dated a while ago, he wasn't bad, but I realized that I was stuck on him for some reason. I had limerence. That's a term. I'm speaking in brain rot a little bit because of TikTok. But limerence is basically when you have residual feelings for somebody that just won't go away. They're very stubborn residual feelings, and you don't understand why you can't stop thinking about a person. So I had limerence with this person that was really like not for me. And they weren't bad at all. Like this wasn't a bad person. They weren't great either, but it wasn't bad. Like he's a pretty decent dude. And it should have been easy for me to be like, this is not who I want. I knew like this was not who I wanted, but for some reason the feelings were there. And I realized, I'm like, I'm not over him because I don't love myself enough. I don't love myself like I thought that I did. And that is why I am still stuck on somebody that does not give two fucks about me. So, because if I actually loved myself enough, maybe I love myself to some extent, right? I've give myself credit for the good things I've done for myself, but maybe I don't love myself enough to accept a good, fulfilling relationship where I'm valued and where I am celebrated, because I wasn't being valued or celebrated. That guy just wanted nothing to do with me, which is fine. It's completely fine. I can't villainize him for having his own preferences. But yeah, I had to accept that I couldn't villainize him, and I had to love myself more. That was all on me, bitch. That was all on me for being mentally like, you need to love yourself to a point where if somebody is not loving you to that same extent, you can let go. Like, sure, maybe there's some grieving involved, but it doesn't last, because you know in your head that you have so much to offer and so much value and love to give, that anybody that doesn't see that, like, yeah, no, not for me. Like, it's an automatic turn off. You have to turn that into turn offs. And that takes discipline, because it wasn't, even after I realized that, it was a little hard, but now that I had that perspective, it did make it easier. And it takes discipline. It takes so much discipline to practice love. And when it comes to career, oh God, like I was so burnt out from acting for a while that I took a break, and I was partying. I had a great time. But I realized that if I really want to achieve the level of success that I envision for myself, that I believe that I deserve, I have to be disciplined. I need to party less. I need to work hard and spend hours on top of the hours that I don't even work that much bartending because a bitch is burnt out. But I need to use the hours that I do have, that I'm very fortunate to have, to edit these videos, to film, to come up with content to upload instead of fucking doom scrolling on my phone. And I need to be consistent. Same thing, and that applies to anything. Like I want to be consistent with this creative project that I'm taking on along with others, and I need to be consistent with my relationships and who I allow into my life and my vetting process. Because when you're not consistent, I mean, you only have a half clean house, and that other half is going to get dirty again because the other half is dirty. So, yeah, I think that is the healthiest perspective to have, is to allow yourself to be real, to see things for what they are, and to love yourself in every area. And that's it's hard work, it takes discipline, but I mean, shit's going to be hard regardless. Like life is already hard. It's you already have to work to make a living if you're not fortunate enough to have a trust fund and rich parents. And yeah, I mean, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, we're already, a lot of people are already so fortunate be to have a job, to live in a first world country. There's, count your blessings. As cheesy as it may be, as much as people may say, people may say it too often, but it's true. It's true. You have to count your blessings, and keep a healthy level of optimism, and be real with yourself. And lastly, I think the most important thing when it comes to self-love in all these areas and career is knowing how to protect yourself, because you can go through all that, decide to follow your dreams, do it, but there's a whole new set of challenges that are going to come after that. And you have to be mentally, physically, and emotionally prepared for all the bullshit, because in every field there's going to be wolves. And in the field that I chose for myself, which is, sometimes I'm like, damn, could I have chosen anything like harder? um but it's like, it's what I want to do, so whatever. But yeah, anyway, there's so many wolves in Hollywood. There's so much bullshit here, and you can't let anybody taint your art. You can't let anybody taint what can be healing to a lot of people, and what can bring you happiness and stability and all these beautiful things. Like, there's always going to be somebody that's going to try to attack. Hopefully for a lot of people there isn't. Like, I wouldn't wish that on anybody or say that there's always going to be that, but I think for a lot of things there are, especially for women and queer people. Yeah, there's always going to be people that are going to be, for the most part, that are going to be trying to sabotage what you do. I know for myself here, when I came to LA, oh my God, I dealt with some creeps and with the racism. And I don't know if anybody that's listening has watched, maybe some people have watched, what's that documentary? The one about Nickelodeon, Quiet on Set. Like, it just sucks that for a lot of those kids, acting was ruined, and performing was ruined, singing, music was ruined, and because of fucking sick ass motherfuckers. So it's tough. I mean, it's a tough industry. There's a lot of evil in the world, but you have to protect yourself, and you have to keep your values and keep your integrity, because at the end of the day, you're doing it for the art and not for the success. And success isn't even guaranteed if you decide to go down a sketchy path. So, yeah, I mean, protecting yourself is the most valuable thing. And there are some things that I may not have handled as well in the past when I first got here. And I like to joke around and say that I had too much integrity. um, but at the end of the day, I don't regret the integrity that I had. I think I just kind of not regret, but I do believe I could have played things a little differently. But yeah, I don't feel burdened by my choices because at the end of the day, I had the best intentions for myself and I protected myself. I protected yeah, I protected my body, my mind. Yeah, yeah. So I feel overall, even though I do think I learned my lessons on and I know how to do things better from now on, I'm safe now. And like I'm safe because of the decisions that I made and because I valued myself more than success. So yeah, I it's really important to value yourself more and value your art more than any shiny object or any praise that you're able to get. And I do believe that when you have that mindset, you will you will see the fruits of your labor. And yeah, yeah, I do think so. I think when you have the formula together, when you believe in yourself and have an optimistic mindset and are diligent and all these, I'm not gonna keep saying words, but yeah, I do believe that success success will be here. I mean, you have to in order to keep going. It's just I think that the the thing to take in mind is like what kind of relationship you have with that. But yeah, I mean, I'm obviously doing this for because I want the success. I just want to attain it in a way that is going to make me proud. Like I don't want to achieve it and then look back and be like, "Oh, I had to suck some 80-year-old dick to fucking get here." And no shame to people that do it because like it's so hard. So I get it. Like I get why you need to suck some 80-year-old dick to to have to have a bag and to have financial security. I mean, I get it. I get it. But girl, I can't. I can't. I can't do that. And I know there's another way, and it might be longer, but I know there's another way. And it's just, if you want to be somebody that's going to offer some sort of value to the world and wants to inspire people to have self-respect and integrity, then you can't, you gotta, you can't be a hypocrite about it. So yeah, but yeah, damn, I be yapping for a long time, but that concludes my episode, guys. Thank you for listening to the first episode of Cuntfessionals. I hope you liked it. If there's anybody that has any suggestions on what to talk about, if you want to be a guest, reach out to me on Instagram. Follow me at Amy Sabalsa and at Salsa666 on TikTok. Salsa with two Z's. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye.